Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ignite and Community YouTube channel. My name is Codi Chen, and on this channel, I talk all about immersing yourself in writing. I own a writing company and it is called Heartworks Writing, and you can follow us on social at Heartworks Writing or me personally at Codi Elizabeth, and check out our website at www.heartworksw.com. We do copywriting, editing, ghostwriting, book and content coaching, and we also lead different writing groups throughout the year. So definitely give us a shout and check this out. Also, this month in the Ignite and Community YouTube channel, our theme is May the Forest Be With You, all about new growth and new opportunities. If you're watching this video the day that it airs, it is May 4th. So may the 4th be with you to all of my sci-fi fantasy lovers out there. So when I was thinking about this topic about new growth, new beginnings when it comes to our writing, I thought a really good topic to talk about would be transitioning from not being a paid writer to becoming a full-time writer, if that's something that interests you. These are 5 tips to becoming a full-time writer. These are things that I found in hindsight, looking back over my own personal journey, that really made a difference in helping me become successful. If you are a full-time writer out there, there's so many different tips and tricks along the way. And so I would love to really hear what has made a huge difference in your professional journey to becoming a full-time writer. This is all about community, all about collaboration, uplifting one another. So I'm definitely here for all of that and would love to hear from you. So tip number 1 that I have is work on your own personal writing. So I personally don't believe that you need a formal education in creative writing or anything like that as far as the arts go. This could, you can totally disagree, and that is awesome. I'm definitely not knocking formal education, but it's not something that I ever felt that I needed to really go after in order to become a successful writer. I don't remember a time that I didn't want to be a writer growing up. And for me, it was more I wanted to be a writer and other things, multi-passionate being right here. So I was like, I want to be a writer and traveler, a writer and maybe a teacher, maybe a lawyer. There was so many different things that I wanted. So when I went to college, I actually almost went for like a backup plan because I always knew that writing was going to be the forefront of what I was doing, but I wanted other experiences as well. So I earned my Bachelor's of Science through the Geography Department of Western Michigan University in Travel and Tourism because I really wanted to travel. And I also earned a CELTA certificate through Cambridge University to teach English as a second language. So I did a lot of traveling and living abroad and teaching English. These are things that have helped me along the way. And just so you know, if you don't have a formal education, this is not something that I find is a deal breaker. It's actually kind of funny when I tell people about what I actually do have a degree in, but my experience completely outweighs the fact that I don't have an advanced degree in creative writing. So get personal or get comfortable with personal writing, figuring out what you like and don't. When I traveled abroad, I made a blog, and it was really the point of that was for me to have a regular writing practice and for me to be able to keep in touch with my family and friends as I was living and traveling abroad. I also gathered up some other bloggers and we all followed each other. I made a really nice following, but my point wasn't a business or make money out of it or anything like that. It was really about getting comfortable, seeing what topics I really enjoyed talking about, and then also having other people see those different articles and getting a little bit of feedback from them, which was typically gentle because it was family and friends or people I knew. But once I started to write some articles that I thought might interest other businesses that I really enjoyed, I was not hesitant to share them. So I, for example, started blogging and I wrote about 10 tips on surviving a really long flight. And I sent that over to National Geographic Traveler, their social media page, and then they went ahead, excuse me, and shared that article on their own social media page, which was awesome. I also wrote about growing up with two mothers and, celebrating LGBTQ plus history. And I shared that with Curve magazine, and they reposted it on their social media. So I got different comments, different feedback, a lot more views, and it was a really good way to kind of ease into that comfortability. So tip number 1, really work on your own personal writing. Number 2, put yourself out there. So when I moved back from South Korea, back to America, traveling around Asia, I really wanted to see what it would be like to be paid for my writing. But I didn't want to rely on that as like full-time work and really have to rely on freelancing right when I was trying to get settled back. So I put myself on sites like Upwork or Fiverr, and it was really just to get a good feel of what do I like writing about that other people are searching for. So they also handle your contracts and the payments. That's a lot of hassle that you don't have to worry about, and the people who hire you don't really have to worry about. And it was a lot about learning pitches and proposals and working with editors. And it was a really good experience. But let me tell you, this part is typically more about experience rather than raking in the money. A lot of the jobs out there aren't for a ton of payment. For example, I used to write travel itineraries, and I'd write articles on like Pompeii, whatever people were looking for. And I could spend hours or an entire day researching, editing, writing, doing all the things for like $30. But like I said, it's more about the practice. It's more about getting your feet wet and deciding, what do I like? What do I not like? So I took on, and I encourage you to take on different things like writing articles, writing website copy, writing resumes, editing other people's work. That way you'll be able to see what you really like and what you don't really like. So for me, I found it really valuable, but it's not a forever place to be. The next step, step 3, is narrow down your specialties. So after you've put yourself out there, you've gotten some clients, you've done a couple jobs, you know and have a really good handle on, I love doing this. And I can do this and it's fine and it's great, whatever, I'll do it. And I will not do these. I know for me, I found I love writing, copywriting, I love book coaching, all these things, but like I do not like resume writing and I don't do it anymore. But I only really figured that out once I got really comfortable with all the different writing styles out there. Also, look at what people are approaching you for. I was approached to do technical writing, and I didn't know what that was necessarily. It was medical technical writing, almost a form of transcribing. And I was approached to see if I would like to do that by someone who owned several businesses. So I took that and I started to do that. And as I got better, and let me tell you, yes, I had to rewrite several different reports because I did not do it in the correct style as I was learning. So it's for free, more experience, right? You got to learn to take those hits and make those adjustments and move along. But as I got better and better, I all of a sudden was getting more reports and more different types of reports. And eventually that grew in through several other businesses, finding out what I did. And it led to me being able to do this full time because I was open to new experiences. I found out that I really enjoyed it. And I would dream about, while I was still having a full-time job as an administrator or an administrator's assistant, when I was doing all these different jobs, I was still consistently practicing my writing. And once people found out what we did and it grew bigger and bigger, full-time writing, and I used to dream that all I wanted to do was sit there and write these reports and work from home and do all this. But eventually our wishes change. We grow out of things, right? And so I knew when I was starting to feel like, I really don't want to do these anymore, and had been doing it for, probably 7-8 years, is when I decided to start taking on different projects that really interested me, such as copywriting for people's websites, product descriptions, editing other people's work, and doing book coaching. but it was too much work to handle all on my own. I didn't want to do this. My wife and business partner was in agreements with me. And so we sought out a private buyer, and we ended up selling that writing company to a private buyer, which was pretty amazing. If you are a therapist or you work in a residential treatment center or anything like that, definitely give me a shout, because I can put you in contact with someone who can make your business flow so much easier and be in compliance. Just a little plug there. But that is tip number 3, is narrowing down your specialty and really being open. Also, this is a time to increase your prices. Because you have more experience, you have other projects under your belt, this is a great time to up your prices, because you might start to feel overwhelmed. You need to take on so many projects in order to just make, your baseline bills. Once you feel more comfortable, once you have several different things under your belt, raise your prices. That way you can take on less work for more money that reflects the amount of time that you've put in to learn these things. Also, tip number 4, start networking. Once you've moved out of Fiverr, out of Upwork or places like that, like I said, I don't suggest staying in those places forever unless you're finding tremendous success. Then that's amazing. Do what works for you. But for me, I decided to move out and get some other clients that were more organic. So I joined a mastermind for one thing. I made a ton of connections with other female entrepreneurs. I got work there. I got to bounce off different ideas with people. I built this really amazing community. And not only did I get work from people there, but I got personal referrals from them to their friends or family members who needed help with writing as well. I was really excited about that. Personally, I feel like personal referrals are the way to go, because you already know and trust this person that you've worked with, and they most likely know and trust this person who they're referring you to. And so there's less maybe questions of, are you going to get paid on time and everything like that. So do in-person networking, maybe around your town. Like, for example, I joined a book club. And I'm making connections there. I'm not sitting there talking about, oh, I'm writing, but we of course introduced ourselves. Everyone's interested in reading. A lot of people like to write as well. And so people know me within the community as what I do. Also, Facebook has really marketed itself as a place for groups. And so I like to join different freelance writing groups, different writing groups, everything like that, in order to give advice. Also just put these videos out there. I love sharing them. I hope they're really helpful with everybody, but it's also just getting more exposure to more people in different, lines of work that maybe would find your work really helpful to them. Also, something that's important is update your LinkedIn profile. This is one of the most underutilized social media platforms out there, and yet for business, it's one of the most important. I know I'm not constantly updating. I'm not the best at it, but I have definitely spent time to create my profile in a really thoughtful way that represents what I'm putting out there and what I'm looking for. So that's tip number 4, start networking. And finally, tip number 5 is be reliable. Keep your word, because that's what changes from a one-time customer to possibly repeat customers. That's what gets you more and more and more personal referrals. People are singing your praises without you needing to be there and without you needing to ask. So some things that I found really important when branching off completely on my own is, number 1, make a contract. These can be very simple. Mine are often 1 page, depending on the type of work that I'm doing. If it's a book contract, it's way more extensive and it's several pages long. But for a normal copywriting or editing, it's typically just a one-off contract, and it helps me be able to ensure that I get paid on time. I tell people how they can pay me, when they need to pay me, and I tell them exactly what I'm going to be doing for them and the deadline in which they will receive that work. Even if it's with a really good friend that you're doing with this, contracts are really important and it's professional, and I would really suggest that you make one. Also, be thorough with your questions and your research depending on which project you are going to pick up for someone. So make sure you have a list of questions like everything you need to know about that project, and let them know that you might be contacting them throughout, your deadline time. Say you're going to get them information in a week, you'll be contacting them throughout the week if you have any other questions. I believe that the more questions you ask, the more clarity you get, especially when doing something like copywriting and writing in something, someone else's voice in their business. Get as much clarity as possible. And then that way I feel like nerves really go away, because all that's left is your art that you get to create for your client. Also, make sure that you edit your work. Look, we are all human, okay? Like me included. There are times that I've read a document 1,500 times, and yet there are still like those one or two random typos that my eyes aren't catching. So I would suggest maybe getting someone else to edit your work if that is possible. Just do a once look over, make sure that everything sounds good, it's grammatically correct. It's always great to have an extra pair of eyes before you send it off to the client. Definitely keep your deadlines. Be realistic. If you say, I can get this project done and to you within 7 days, make sure that you can do that. If you need more time, don't be shy about asking for more time. Don't kill yourself to, really complete this project when it doesn't need to be done in that amount of time anyway. Be flexible, but definitely do what you say that you're going to do. Also, expect feedback and expect adjustments to be made. You are not necessarily the unicorn out there where you don't ever need to make any adjustments. You nailed it completely on the head. Not saying it doesn't happen. Like I've had definite projects where they're like no notes or adjustments, but you should always expect to have them. It prepares you to know that you're not perfect. You're not expected to get it 100 billion% correct the very first time, and let your clients know that you need, you expect feedback from them, whatever notes, whatever adjustments need to be made. And within my contract, I always put 1 round of edits as well. That way I'm very clear that it's not just a one and done. I can go back and fix the things, but I'm not going to go back 17 times to fix some things. I'm going back once. That's just another benefit of having a contract. Also, be receptive to the feedback. Just like anything else, be sure that you are in a right mindset in order to be able to receive that feedback as feedback and be able to really take that in and be okay with it. Don't take it personally. Make those adjustments that your client is asking you. Also, another thing is oftentimes we're paid per project. I know that's how I've done it a lot, and a lot of other freelancers as well. A lot of times writing is not a per hour gig, right? So I'm telling you, it took me 10 years to do the things in 10 minutes, right? It took me 10 years to learn how to do something quickly like that. And you're not going to pay me for the 10 minutes I can do something that normally took me, originally an hour to do. You're going to pay me for the 10 years of experience up until this point. That's why pricing is really important. So if you're paid per project, just keep this in mind. You're going to need to do a lot of personal research and development that you should already include in your price. Don't charge someone, say, okay, I can do this copywriting, I'll get this website to you, and then you're trying to bill them hourly in order to figure out how you write website copy. You were hired for a job, so make sure that you can do the job that you were hired for. Plain and simple. So I'm going to go over those 5 tips again, from becoming an unpaid writer to becoming a full-time writer. Tip number 1, work on your own personal writing. Tip number 2, put yourself out there. Tip number 3, narrow down your specialties. Tip number 4 is start networking. And tip number 5 is be a reliable writer. So, like I said in the beginning, if you are a full-time contract writer or a full-time freelance writer, I would love to hear any other tips that you have or that you have found important over the years during your transition. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments below. Let me know how you liked this video. Also, feel free to send me a DM or an email and that is available on our website at www.heartworksw.com. Thank you again so much. I appreciate you all always tuning in. You are amazing, and have a really beautiful day. Thank you.